Hey there berries, welcome to another League of Legends support tier list. This is for 12.15 coming out on the 10th of August. Not too many support changes coming in this patch, but there's been some minor adjustments that I've made on my tier list from 2 weeks ago. Been doing a little bit more research on a couple of off-meta things that have been popping up as well, such as the Amumu and Heimerdinger. But first, we'll start with the actual notes itself. In terms of support changes, we have a Leona buff, which is actually quite considerable. The mana cost is going down on the Q, which that's not really the thing I want to talk about, but the ult crowd control duration going up from 1.5 to 1.75 doesn't sound like a lot, but stun durations going up even by 0.25 can make a huge difference, especially when it's AoE. So if you land that on like 3 people, then technically you're doing like an extra 0.75 seconds worth of stun from a relatively low cooldown ultimate as well. So it's yeah, the unit is definitely getting a little bit stronger going into the next patch. The next one, the Thresh change, his Q cooldown's going down 1 second, and the Q damage is actually going up quite substantially, plus 20 damage on base value. Generally, I've not ever recommended you guys playing Thresh. This tier list, if you're not used to it, is generally catered towards unranked newer players to around about plat-ish. And even in low plat, I probably wouldn't even recommend people playing Thresh too much. He's generally too hard for a lot of people to play, and particularly the win rate in like Iron and Bronze. He's one of the lowest win rate champions that you can actually play. Once you start entering into gold and low plat, he starts going up into like nearer the 50% mark, and only people that really main him around that ELO will do well on him. But this buff is kind of catered more towards like, you know, plat plus really essentially. So it's a pretty nice, you know, buff for people playing in those ELOs. In terms of nerfs, there aren't any actual support nerfs coming through this patch, so some good news finally on that end. A couple of item changes. You might see some people take more of the Quicksilver Sash items. They're getting buffed substantially this next patch. So champions that will suffer from that are like the Malzahar and the Mordekaiser and Urgot maybe as well, since you can Quicksilver Sash out of those ultimates. So expect to see maybe some Mordekaiser, Malzahar, Urgot buffs later on in a patch or two to make up for that. But obviously, once again, that doesn't really affect bot lane that much. System nerfs. First Strike getting nerfed, so that could impact a couple of artillery mages in particular, like if you were running it on Xerath or Vel'Koz, maybe even Lux. If you were running that, it's a slight nerf. It's a 1% true damage nerf, but it's still a nerf. It's nothing too crazy. The gold is unchanged, but it's just something to keep an eye on. So artillery mages potentially ever so slightly nerfed, but generally I was taking Arcane Comet when playing some of those champions anyway. So for me personally, it's not really a big deal, but it might be a slight issue for some of you. Jumping straight into the tier list here. I'm not going to hold you guys up too long. Not a huge amount has changed. Tier 5 is stayed the same. Heimerdinger is in tier 4. We've got Heimerdinger there right at the bottom. Once again, I'll mention it again, from left to right it means no, doesn't mean anything. They're not in priority of how strong they are in the tier itself. But the Heimerdinger pick has been a weird one. I have played a decent amount of solo queue games in the last week, and I've only seen one Heimerdinger, and I've played it once. I didn't see anything there that made it seem like it was particularly OP or not. I felt like the Heimerdinger, when I was playing against him, didn't really impact the lane at all. And when I was playing it, I didn't really feel like I was impacting the lane much at all either. So I'm not sure. If you're unaware, his win rate right now is one of the highest in the support role right now. In particular for like gold plus, and the reason for that is I still have no idea. I legit have no idea. He's doing pretty well in the mid lane and top lane. His play rate as support Heimerdinger is still extremely low, so it could just be over exaggerated a little bit from those stats. I would not recommend you guys try out Heimerdinger at the moment. I don't think that it warrants it or is worth it. and he might get nerfed anyway because he's doing quite well anyway in like the top lane and the mid lane at the moment. So at the moment, don't even bother with it unless you want to try something goofy. Anything else there really on that list? Some of those champions are quite good in high elo, like the Yuumi and the Nautilus in particular. Everything else there I really wouldn't really recommend playing in solo queue, but once you start entering into tier 3, there's some champions you might want to start like looking at and considering. Another off meta pick there. First one there, we've got the Amumu. Amumu's doing alright. I haven't played him personally, nor have I seen him. He's like one of those really rare kind of like picks still, but I think he's doing alright at the moment. One to keep your eye on in terms of tanking gauges at the moment, but Amumu's doing alright. In the jungle, he's definitely doing okay. So, you know, if you are playing a lot of jungle and you want to play support, then maybe an Amumu support could work out for you. Seraphine saw a little bit of loss in win rate after her nerfs, but she's still in tier 3. Just trying to think there's anything else too crazy. Bard is doing particularly well in high ELO. We're talking like Diamond, even Master Plus. In the lower ELOs, he doesn't do as great, as people generally don't know how to play him to his maximum potential, and he is one of the hardest champions to play in League. Swain, I will add Swain here. He's in tier 3, but if you are Iron or Bronze, he is extremely good right now, but he falls off really, really, really hard. Kind of like Brand, which we'll talk about in a second. Thresh, the Thresh buffs came through. He moves up from tier 4 to tier 3, but overall, I wouldn't really recommend a lot of you guys to play him anyway. I'd recommend playing, if you want to learn how to play tank supports, stick with something like the Leon that's getting buffed next patch. But she's also pretty stable tank, at least anyway at the moment. You got the Ashe support in tier 3. It's just kind of a fun pick. I like playing Ashe support. I think it's kind of fun. She definitely has her uses. But she's not the most stable champion in terms of climbing in solo queue. It's more of a fun pick. Tier 2, a lot of the AP mages are doing quite well now because of the Enchanter nerfs in the previous patch. Do bear in mind though, you got the tank buffs coming through, so you do have to think about that and the first strike nerfs. But Vel'Koz, Brand, Xerath are generally doing have decent-ish win rates. Brand is doing very, very well in Iron as always. In Bronze, he's still doing decently. Once you start entering Silver, Brand starts to fall off pretty hard. He's still decent in Silver. Gold, it just ends up being okay, and then after that, I wouldn't recommend playing Brand at all. Vel'Koz, his win rate has definitely been going up, with there being more tanky targets, more health from the health patch that happened a few patches ago. He's doing more damage basically with his abilities, and his true damage is getting more of an impact because enemy resistances aren't impacted by the true damage. So Vel'Koz has just been naturally getting an increased win rate just from his basic kit, at least anyway. And Xerath generally been doing alright. Anything else there I really want to talk about? Renata moved down from tier 1 to tier 2. They got overreached slightly on my estimations there. Soraka's still tier 2, but she is still a pretty stable enchanter. Like if you are enjoying playing Soraka, then you can still definitely play her for sure. And Blitzcrank is still one of the best tanks overall to be playing in solo queue. But we're going to go right to the top. Taric was added to tier 1, I believe, last patch, and he's still tier 1. He's got the highest win rate in the majority of the queues at the moment, particularly in, I believe it's Silver Plus, might be Gold Plus, but if you're looking to play a new champion, honestly, not many people play Taric. Taric might be something that might catch your interest if you do want to play something new in the bot lane. Leona still tier 1, with those buffs, the ult buff in particular is super important. Zyra, the best mage for sure. She not only is she consistently well in lower ELO, like the unranked to silver, she does particularly well up until high diamond. So she is definitely one of the most reliable AP mages that you can play right now. Janna and Sona have decent win rates at the moment. Janna I think has slightly higher win rates than Sona at the moment. With the tanks being more likely to play lately, Janna will probably get more play rate through that. So Janna's a pretty good anti-tank disengager. Sona's just naturally been doing okay. Even with the enchanter item nerfs, she definitely had a slight bump in the bump down in the win rates. but nothing too dramatic. I think more people will be moving over to Australia's since the Moonstone got nerfed last patch, but I think Moonstone and Australia's are still perfectly fine to do on Sona. And Nami, Nami, I was considering putting her into tier 2, but I think she's definitely a very reliable enchanter to play still. If she is going to stay in tier 1 as a low tier 1 or a high tier 2, I couldn't quite place her exactly where I wanted her. So just keep your eye on that she could slip back and forth between those tier 1s and tier 2s quite a lot. So if you are wanting something a little bit more reliable and stable in terms of enchanters to play this patch or in the next few patches, then maybe stick with the Janna or the Sona. But generally, if you want something more of that aggressive kind of pick in terms of enchanters, both the Nami and the Soraka are doing pretty decently at the moment. Basically, what has happened over the last few patches is that enchanters have got a little bit weaker. Some of the tanks have got a little bit stronger, and the mages overall have just generally got a little bit stronger. So I do feel like the power level of all the supports have definitely got squished and are closer. It's just more of the AD carry picks are kind of dictating what's happening lately, and there are a couple of AD carry nerfs coming in. Such as the Sivir. Sivir's getting nerfed. I think she's got a pretty high win rate at the moment. She's getting played in a lot of games. I mean, a lot of my games she's been picked. So she is getting nerfed, so hopefully we'll see less of her. And also there's a Kalista nerf, which you probably weren't seeing too much if you were in like Iron or Bronze, but in Kalista and high ELO in like Plat Plus, she definitely was a bit of a problem. So that Kalista change probably won't impact you. But the Sivir was played in all ELOs, and it'd be nice to see her played a little bit less because it's a pretty annoying champion to lane against. But I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. Hopefully next patch will be a little bit more stuff to talk about and going on, but hopefully this puts you on the the right track of what you want to be playing in solo queue. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more support content. In terms of the Nuzlocke, I'm going to be trying to condense the Nuzlocke videos a little bit, so you might see more than one episodes in one video. I might just do like one clunk of videos with timestamps. That might be the best way to do it, and then have a support video every day. So like one Nuzlocke, one support video every day. That's kind of like the theory that I've got going on my head at the moment, but I'll see how it goes. So trying to find that balance between making support content for you guys, but also adding some more kind of like league not necessarily support content as well, but I'll see how I do. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing alright, and good luck in the next patch. Take care, guys. Bye bye.